Hi Year 6, we're up to chapter 9 now and it's getting quite tense, so let's find out what happens today. Chapter 9, Night Visitors. Herod Sale was playing snooker when Alex was shown back into the room with the jellyfish. It was hard to say quite where the heavy wooden snooker table had come from, and Alex couldn't avoid thinking that the little man looked slightly ridiculous, almost lost at the far end of the green baize. Mr. Grin was with him, carrying a footstool which Sale stood on for each shot. Otherwise he would barely have been able to reach over the edge. "Ah, good evening, Felix. Or of course I mean Alex," Sale exclaimed. "Do you play snooker?" Occasionally." "How would you like to play against me? There are only 2 reds left, then the colours. But I'm willing to bet that you don't score a single point." "How much?" "Ha, ha, ha, ha," laughed Sale. "Suppose I was to bet you £10 a point." "As much as that?" Alex looked surprised. "To a man like myself, £10 is nothing, nothing. Why, I could quite happily bet you £100 a point." "Then why don't you?" The words were softly spoken, but they were still a direct challenge. Sale gazed thoughtfully at Alex. "Very well," he said, £100 a point. Why not? I like a gamble. My father was a gambling man." "I thought he was a hairdresser." "Who told you that?" Silently, Alex cursed himself. Why was he never more careful when he was with this man? I read it in a paper," he said. "My dad got some stuff to read about you when I won a competition." £100 a point, then. But don't expect to get rich." Sale hit the white, sending one of the reds straight into the middle pocket. The jellyfish floated past, as if watching the game from its tank. Mr. Grin picked up the footstool and moved it round the table. Sale laughed briefly and followed the butler round, already sizing up the next shot, a fairly tricky black into the corner. "So, what does your father do?" he asked. "He's an architect," Alex said. "Oh, yes. What has he designed?" The question was casual, but Alex wondered if he was being tested. "He's been working on an office in Soho," Alex said. "Before that he did an art gallery in Aberdeen." "Yes." Sale climbed onto the footstool and aimed. The black missed the corner pocket by a fraction of a millimetre, spinning back into the centre. Sale frowned. "That was your bloody fault," he snapped at Mr. Grin. "What?" "Your shadow was on the table. Never mind, never mind." He turned to Alex. "You've been unlucky. None of the balls will go in. You won't make any money this time." Alex pulled a cue out of the rack and glanced at the table. Sale was right. The last red was too close to the cushion. But in snooker there are other ways to win points, as Alex knew only too well. It was one of the games he had played with Ian Ryder. The 2 of them had even belonged to a club in Chelsea, and Alex had represented the junior team. This was something he hadn't mentioned to Sale. He carefully aimed at the red, then hit. "Perfect!" "Nowhere near." Sale was back at the table before the balls had even stopped rolling, but he had spoken too soon. He stared as the white ball hit the cushion and rolled behind the pink. He'd been snookered. And for about 20 seconds he measured up the angles, breathing through his nose. "You've had a bit of bloody luck," he said. "You seem to have accidentally snookered me. Now let me see." He concentrated, then hit the white, trying to curve it round the pink. But once again he was out by a millimetre. There was an audible click as it touched the pink. "Foul shot," Alex said. 6 points to me. Does that mean I get £600? "What?" "The foul is worth 6 points to me at £100 a point." Yes. Saliva flecked Sale's lips. He was staring at the table as if he couldn't believe what had happened. His shot had exposed the red ball. It was an easy shot into the top corner, and Alex took it without hesitating. "And another 100 makes 700, he said. He moved down the table, brushing past Mr. Grin. Quickly he judged the angles. Yes! He got a perfect kiss on the black, sending it into the corner with the white spinning back for a good angle on the yellow. £1,400 plus another 200 when he dropped the yellow in immediately afterwards. Sale could only watch in disbelief as Alex pocketed the green, the brown, the blue and the pink in that order, and then down the full length of the table, the black. "I make that £4,100, Alex said. He put down the cue. "Thank you very much." Sale's face had gone the colour of the last ball. "4,000! I wouldn't have gambled if I'd known you were this bloody good," he said. He went over to the wall and pressed a button. Part of the floor slid back and the entire billiard table disappeared into it, carried down by a hydraulic lift. When the floor slid back, there was no sign that it had ever been there. It was a neat trick, the toy of a man with money to burn. But Sale was no longer in the mood for games. He threw his billiard cue over to Mr. Grin, hurling it almost like a javelin. The butler's hand flicked out and caught it. "Let's eat," Sale said. The two of them sat at opposite ends of a long glass table in the room next door, while Mr. Grin served smoked salmon, then some sort of stew. Alex drank water. Sale, who had cheered up once again, had a glass of vintage red wine. "You spent some time with the Stormbreaker today?" he asked. "Yes." "And?" "It's great," Alex said, and meant it. He still found it hard to believe that this ridiculous man could have created anything so sleek and powerful. "So, which programs did you use?" "History, science, maths. It's hard to believe, but I actually enjoyed them." "Do you have any criticisms?" Alex thought for a moment. "I was surprised it didn't have 3D acceleration." "The Stormbreaker is not intended for games." "Did you consider a headset, an integrated microphone?" "No." Sale nodded. "It's a good idea. I'm sorry you've only come here for such a short time, Alex. Tomorrow we'll have to get you onto the internet. The Stormbreakers are all connected to a master network that's controlled from here. It means they have free 24-hour internet access." "Oh, that's cool." "It's more than cool." Sale's eyes were far away, the grey irises small and dancing. "Tomorrow we start shipping the computers out," he said. "They'll go by plane, by lorry and by boat. It will take just one day for them to reach every point of the country, and the day after at 12 o'clock noon exactly, the Prime Minister will honour me by pressing the start button, which will bring every one of my Stormbreakers online. At that moment, all the schools will be united. Think of it, Alex. Thousands of school children, hundreds of thousands, sitting in front of the screens, suddenly together. North, south, east and west. One school, one family. And then they will know me for what I am." He picked up his glass and emptied it. "How is the goat?" he asked. "I'm sorry?" "The stew. The meat is goat. It was a recipe of my mother's. She must have been an unusual woman." Herod Sale held out his glass, and Mr. Grin refilled it. Sale was gazing at Alex curiously. "You know," he said, "I have a strange feeling that you and I have met before." I don't think so." "But yes, your face is familiar to me. Mr. Grin, what do you think?" The butler stood back with his wine. His dead, white head twisted round to look at Alex. "Eek! Ah!" he said. "Yes, of course, you're right." "Eek! Ah?" Alex asked. "Ian Ryder, the security man I mentioned. You look a lot like him. Quite a coincidence, don't you think?" "I don't know. I never met him." Alex could feel the danger getting closer. "You told me that he left suddenly." "Yes, he was sent here to keep an eye on things, but if you ask me, he was never any bloody good. Spent half his time in the village, in the port, the post office, the library. When he wasn't snooping around here, that is, of course. That's something else you have in common. I understand Fraulein Vaux found you yesterday." Sale's pupils crawled to the front of his eyes, trying to get closer to Alex. "You were off limits." "I got a bit lost," Alex shrugged, trying to make light of it. Well, I hope you don't go wandering again tonight. Security is very tight at the moment, and as you may have noticed, my men are all armed. I didn't think that was legal in Britain. We have a special license. At any rate, Alex, I would advise you to go straight to your room after dinner and stay there. I would be inconsolable if you were accidentally shot and killed in the darkness, although it would, of course, save me £4,000. Actually, I think you've forgotten the cheque. You'll have it tomorrow. Maybe we can have dinner together. Mr. Green will be serving up one of my grandmother's recipes. More goat? Dog. You obviously had a family that loved animals. Only the edible ones. Sale smiled. And now I must wish you good night.